All right, folks, the situation in Ukraine has taken a turn here. Now the Ukraine is beginning to use those U.S.-supplied cluster bombs against Russian forces. I want to bring in the Foreign Desk Editor-in-Chief, Lisa Daftari. And Lisa, I think about this as a few days ago, a critical bridge was hit in Crimea. And apparently Russians use it for a lot of troop movement, but also a lot of civilians are on that, use that bridge as well. And I wonder, would that be an ideal target? Like, would you use a cluster bomb on something like that where there could be civilian casualties?
The best way to deliver the biggest damage to the enemy is to use cluster bombs exactly as they're meant, and that is to take out civilian areas with large populations, because it does spread out to a large area. Not only that, it's a lot of not only civilians but children are at risk because these bomb particles, they last for not months but years.
Right.
So that's why there was such a warning not to send more cluster bombs into this war.
Yeah, and 51% of Americans, according to one poll, were opposed to this decision. President Biden himself said it was sort of agonizing to make. By the same token, I hear from a lot of people on the left and right, both saying that these bombs should have been sent a long time ago, that without the kind of weapons that Ukraine needs, they cannot win this confrontation.
Right, but that's the question that the United States needs to ask itself. Can Ukraine win this confrontation, regardless of how much money and military supplies we're putting into this war? Asking our allies to get involved and send more to Ukraine, it looks like we're not making a dent. Listen, anybody with a sane mind wants this war to end. Everybody wants Putin to have some sort of off-ramp to end this sooner rather than later. But how do we do that? By sending cluster bombs into this war, we knew that there was going to be an escalation. The UN, the international community, called it war crimes when Putin himself has used cluster bombs more than 24 times over the last year and a half since this invasion of Ukraine. So why would we then want to escalate the war? Now, yes, we do want to win. We want to end. We want Ukraine to, stop the fortifications that Putin has made. But at the same time, if the United States and the Western allies want to stop Putin, there are other ways of doing so. So, for example, we have sanctions in place. Are they truly being enforced? Well, Putin claims that he has had a 20% increase in his oil exports income. Why has he been able to purchase drones from the Iranian regime? I mean, if we really want to stop Putin, there are better ways than escalating the war by giving the Ukrainians cluster bombs now.
So then let's talk about this escalation. Russia getting out of the allowing the shipments of grain out of the Black Sea ports. Apparently, Ukraine now is just using a river that's drying up from drought. So this sounds like it's going to be really a bad problem economically. We've already seen wheat prices soar. This escalation, how is there a tipping point that things like this that were agreed upon? And also, when you answer that, Lisa, I thought it was interesting that as the rest of the world was asking Russia to continue with this deal, they offered to allow them back into the SWIFT program. That was one of those economic sanctions, I guess, that didn't necessarily work.
Right, exactly right. So we're basically controlling both sides of the story, right? So on the one hand, both escalations this week play a big role in this equation. First, obviously, sending cluster bombs to the Ukrainians to use in the war, and secondly, then having that domino tip the equation and have Putin now pull out of the only compromise he was making, which was to allow the grains exports out of Ukraine. This is going to have global implications, as you said, obviously. Now we have to play nice again to allow Russia to allow the grain exports and allow the ports to open up again. But obviously, tit for tat on both sides. We're seeing escalations on both sides. We're making small moves, but then taking 10 steps back in wanting to put, again, an end to this conflict, which doesn't seem like that is the end goal because, by escalating militarily, we will not see Putin back down. We already know this. We've been in this since February of last year. And again, we're having him pull the puppet strings on the global economy because of our actions.
So I got 30 seconds. You don't sound optimistic that it will end or, what is the end game?
Right. You know what? You cannot play this tit for tat game with Putin. You just cannot. And I'm not saying that we have to allow him to take advantage of the situation. Obviously, we know that it's a bipartisan effort. It's a global effort. Everybody wants to stop this. But I just don't believe that putting another $800 million military aid package, which the United States just doubled down on. And guess what, Charles? The reason why they gave them cluster munitions, according to Austin Lloyd, is that they want to now wait for more weapons to be produced in the United States to send them more. I mean, how is this going to put an end to all of this?
Yeah, and also these reports that we ourselves are running out of ammunition. Lisa, thank you very much. Appreciate it.